Hello, Stallions. Happy Sunday. This is Mrs. Martinez again, coming to you via YouTube. Most of you enjoyed the video from last week, so I thought, why not try it again? So here we are. Today, actually, I'm in my backyard, so don't mind our dog Harley. She may be walking in the background in a few minutes, so don't mind her. She's a beautiful golden retriever, and it's such a beautiful day outside that I thought, why not take this outside today and enjoy some learning. I just wanted to do a little bit of a review of what we did this week and kind of talk a little bit about what next week is going to look like for us. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope you take the time to look through it and just are being proactive, are beginning with the end in mind, and are preparing as we head into a new week. Remember, don't forget to wear red tomorrow to honor and celebrate our veterans, those people that put their lives and their families on the line every day to protect this country, to protect our families, and to protect each one of us. This was an exciting week as we face week 2 of ancient Egypt, and we talked about the benefits of the Nile River. We talked a little bit about geography. We did a Nearpod, which learned a lot. We actually took a virtual reality trip to the Nile River. It brought us right to the edge of the river, so we were able to see some papyrus plants. We were able to see just how big the river is, how it expands. It took us to the pyramids, and we were able to actually take a close look of the construction, the building, the amazing structures that stand just before us, and you were able to observe just different details about it. So I thought that was very interesting to actually almost take a field trip and travel all the way to Egypt, to present day Egypt actually. And then we also, some of us were able to visit the tombs, and we saw lots of hieroglyphics, and we were able to actually write our name in hieroglyphics this week, which was exciting. Some of you were very creative and used your artistic talents and did a lot of work on them. It was great. Some of you will notice when you walk in the door tomorrow morning that they are posted on our front door. So that's exciting, and we have lots more to look forward to this upcoming week. And remember that we're staying focused. Most of you had an opportunity on Thursday through our lead time to write down your goal, one or a few goals that you might have, individual goals, not specifically at school, but whether it's at sports, whether it's at home, whether it's making sure you have your homework done, making sure that you are staying focused, making sure that you're being the best basketball player you can be, make sure that you're being the best baseball player you can be, just different goals. And I thought that was a great opportunity for us to stay focused and stay in line with what we're learning as part of our 7 habits, and which we call WIGs, right? Our widely important goals. And we will talk about that some more during our lead time on Thursday. So that's exciting, something to look forward to. So remember today, whether it's today and every day this week, to focus on the goal that you wrote on this past Thursday as your widely important goal. It may be one, it may be more, it may be a short-term goal, which means that you're trying to accomplish it in a short period of time, or maybe a long-term goal, whether it's a career, what you want to do in the future, what you want to do as you enter high school. So it could be long-term or short-term, but remember, you're taking one step every day towards achieving that goal. So let's hope we stay on track with that. But for now, we are trying to focus on ancient Egypt. We started lesson 2 this past week, and we hope to finish lesson 2 between Monday and Tuesday of ancient Egypt, and Wednesday and Thursday. We'll hopefully wrap it up and be able to be ready for our test on Friday. That's the goal for right now. So, but if anything changes, I will let you know. But we'll be focusing more on no longer, and we talked actually about the unification of Egypt this past week, how the kingdoms form. I'm still on lesson 1 at this point. We learned several new words like dynasty. Remember, dynasty meant a line of rulers from one family. So when a father passes on the throne to another, to a son, and then that son passes it to their son. So that was a dynasty, how it goes from generation to generations. We talked a little about the unification of Egypt, of Upper and Lower Egypt, and how ironic it was that Lower Egypt was found actually in the north, and Upper Egypt was in the south, which we would normally think of it vice versa, right? Or the other way around. We talked about that. We talked about the fact that a dynasty is a line of rulers, all of which come from one specific family. We talked about the reason why a dynasty was important is because it created a stable society. It created a united system of government. We talked about the fact that Egypt was ruled by 30, remember that, 30 different dynasties. And these dynasties were organized into 3 different kingdoms, where were the old, the middle, and the new kingdom. And we're going to touch deeply into one of them. We started with the old kingdom this past week. Now we're going to move into the middle kingdom and to the new kingdom. We also talked about the idea that a dynasty, as I said previously, is a system of which is ruled or it's powered by, it's handed from grandfather to father to son. So it just goes on from generation to generation. And we also talked about the fact that Egypt was in a specific place, location, that it allowed the desert and the river to be used to their benefit, and also as a way of protecting them, because the river provided Egypt with a natural defense against intruders, right? And the heat and sand from the desert also kept outsiders from coming in to Egypt, so that they used the river and the desert as a way of protecting them from intruders. We talked a little bit about that. We also talked about how the Nile River provided resources and a way of a natural defense that allowed them to grow and develop the great civilization that they became. So we moved on to that. We also talked about the early rulers of Egypt. Our guiding question for Friday was, how was ancient Egypt governed? Remember, we talked about that, which is the beginning of lesson 2. And we faced a couple of new vocabulary words. One of them was theocracy. If you recall, theocracy was something that we talked about, and we compared how our current government in the United States, how it compared to the government of Egypt at that time, how it was different, how some things were similar. So that was really interesting that we faced on. And we talked about the fact that theocracy is government by a religious leader. Actually, when we have a theocracy, we have the same political and religious leader. And we compare that to the United States, how that was different to what we know today. We also talked about a pharaoh. Pharaoh was one of our new vocabulary words that we talked about this week, which is a pharaoh was a ruler of ancient Egypt. It was previously known as a king, but then we talked about it being named a pharaoh, and also we talked about bureaucracy was another one of our vocabulary words, which we will be adding to our interactive notebook. And remember, we used a Kim strategy to learn or focus on our vocabulary words. We will continue to do that and add these new words that we talked about on Friday. Bureaucracy was a government official. A bureaucrat was a government official. And we talked about how, pharaohs had servants and how he was a religious and a political leader. And we will move on to the actual religion of Egypt this week. We'll talk about the afterlife. We'll talk about embalming, what that process entailed. Why did they do it? Why were the pyramids built? So these are some things that we could start thinking about as we get into the topic of why the pyramids were built, why embalming took place. We'll talk about the afterlife and the belief of the importance of preparing for the afterlife and how they did that, and they ensured that their pharaohs were prepared for the afterlife, and how the pyramids played such a big role in that process. We'll talk about the tombs, what medical skills they used, and so we'll discuss that in detail this coming week as we close lesson 2 and make our way to lesson 3, in order for us to be able to wrap up ancient Egypt and be able to move into the new kingdom, which is Kingdom Kush, which will take us probably a week to complete. It's a much smaller time frame, a much smaller period of time, which we'll be focusing on that. And then we'll move into the social life, and we touched a little bit about social status with our activity on Wednesday, I believe. Our activity on this past Wednesday, we talked about social life, about how the pharaoh was at the top of the pyramid, and how each different section was divided, how people were able to move from farmers and slaves perhaps into the different levels, and they became, whether they were scribes. We talked about how people lived, how they lived, and then we'll move on to Egyptian families, and then we'll move on to the Golden Age, in the art and the life of the different pharaohs. We talk about building empire, and we'll also talk about a woman pharaoh. She was very well known, and what role she played as a woman in ancient Egypt, and we'll compare that perhaps to our world today, and we'll touch on a few other vocabulary words that we're going to come across. And then we'll talk about King Tut, the famous King Tut, and the different pharaohs, and how, and that should take us in the decline of ancient Egypt. Remember, Egypt was such a massive kingdom, but eventually it would come to a decline, and how that happened, why that happened, and if they were able to rise once again. So we'll discuss those things, but I hope that you have enjoyed this weekend. I hope that you are ready to face a new week ahead of us. Remember, tomorrow, as I said, we will celebrate Veterans Day and honor them as they deserve to be honored. And we will also just wrap up lesson 2 and touch on lesson 3 for Tuesday, and Tuesday and Wednesday, have a review on Thursday, and the goal for this week is for us to have our test on Friday. So please remember to review your lessons on Canvas, complete all that work on Canvas. Make sure you're completing that on time. Don't leave that till the last day. Remember, it's due on Friday. All of the lessons, the progress checks are due on Friday. Make sure you have completed your vocabulary list. All of the words were listed on Canvas for you, so go ahead and be proactive and work on that. Remember, we're beginning with the end in mind, and we're staying focused, and we're putting first things first. So let's, can you see the beautiful moon behind me? It's getting dark outside, so I think I'm going to wrap it up for today, but thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to what the next couple weeks will bring. Please remember to stay focused, stay on task, stay on top. If you need to update your interactive notebook, don't forget we will continue to work on our interactive notebook this week. Stay on top with that. If you do not have it yet for any reason, please make sure you bring it tomorrow or Tuesday. If not, please see me and make sure that that we're all staying on track and on task with our interactive notebook. Is a way for us to study, is a way for us to remember, is a way for us to be able to practice our writing, and that will help us in any in our other content areas as well. So have a good night. I will see you all bright and early tomorrow morning as we head into week 3 of ancient Egypt, and we hope to have a successful week. And please remember to stay focused and on track with everything that we have to do remember to focus on your goal, on your widely important goal that you wrote out last Thursday during lead time. So I will see you all very soon. And don't forget that we are Stallion Strong.